In this video help, we're going to start out by covering the navigation menu and then the do action menu. Then we'll cover the tabs. Let's go ahead and start. If you are navigating around the application, there's a one tap per screen access to any of the screens within the application. The screens are also grouped by a color code to show you that these are customer-based screens. These are products and service screens. This is the billing and payment screens. Then there's an expense section of screens that cover expenses, and then employee and employee scheduling information. Any of these screens can be used to edit information, but basically what you have is what we call parent screens. At the top, it's the customer booking, the product services, and in some cases in the product services there are things like reports, and there are also list status screens. What these are basically screens that you saw, portals, and these are scrolling portals that you can edit and edit your own information into. So anytime you see a list screen or a list view, which is a different kind of a screen, a list view is a number of records from a main screen, a parent, that are shown in individual records on one screen, so you can see all the screens that would constitute all the expense screens. If you go up to the billing screens, you have a list view, and these are all the different billings on individual records, and these is the main record, the individual record for the billing. So as you're working through these, you'll see that there are list views up here as well as lists and list views for UDFs and also bookings. Now in the custom area, there'd be one booking per parent record, and then all the records or whatever the current found set is in the booking listing. So if that's clear, or if you have questions, you can always contact us at the developer support on the main website, and we can go ahead and explain anything that you do not understand about how these are used. Now on the do action menu, basically what this is, these are functions. Select function, in this case by adding a new record. If you see that there is no add new record in a screen, that means that that is a child record, and you would not add records to that screen. You only edit them or review them, or whatever you need to do as far as checking on the data. You can print in certain screens, like if you're doing a report, which is not going to be a new add record thing, you would just go ahead and run the report. You can do searches anywhere in any screen but in a portal view. You would go to the individual screen for the individual screens in a portal view by tapping on one of the arrows at the end of the record, and then within that record you can start a search. You start the search as we showed you earlier in the last video, and then you perform the search. The next things that are functions in here is the next record, prior record, first record, and last record. And that is for this data on this side of the record, not the portals. If you're in a portal record, you can do that as far as looking through the records, but this is for the parent record. These would be child records over on this side. You can say, once you do a search, say for example, you searched for certain data within this record, and you had a different found set where some of the records were omitted, but you wanted to see them all again, you could click on the show all records. It'll bring all the records back. Now understand that in a list view, when you're looking at a list view for all the records in the selection and you don't see all of them and you want to know why they're not there, just click on the show all records to bring them all back. And as we said in prior things, if you click in the screen and look at the bullet point here, it shows you what records are in the current selection and what records are omitted. Now if you want to omit a particular record, especially in a list view, you can omit as many records as you want by clicking the omit record view. For example, even if I'm in a single record like this one, which is a parent record, if I wanted to omit it, I could highlight any field and then tap on the omit record, it'll omit it. If then I wanted to see all the omitted records that are not in the current selection, I could say show omitted only. It'll show me all the records that are omitted. Now why would you do that? In some cases you may want to see the omitted records as a selection, and in a list view use those as omitted records to show an exception to the records that were used in the first search to find a category or something that was based on a certain type of a field. The next thing is the print setup, which, by the way, let's go ahead and click on it so I can show it. What had happened is if you get print setup, it has to be in a desktop or in the cloud version. This app can support that. So in the page setup on a iPad or iPhone, that isn't really relevant. Let's go to the print record, and now I'll show you what happens on. These are encompassed for setup type of information on an iPad or iPhone. Now, what you would do in here is you can set a record selection by saying I want to do the current found set or the current record. In this case, I'm looking at a parent record, so I really wouldn't be printing the found set normally. But if I wanted to, I could say, okay, I want to print the found set using a search. Once I complete the search, I want to print the records from that found set. But in most cases, when you're looking at this screen, you're going to be doing a single record print. The number of records per page, in this case, it most often would be 1. That would be a number of pages that you could print, 1, if you're doing a single record. If you're doing a number of pages where there are multiple records, then you can pick how many records you want, and then that would print that amount of records. Page range, in this case, you can do page ranges all, or page range from 1 to 2 or whatever. This is very much like what you would see in a page setup area for a page setup screen. In this case, they're calling it print setup because it's on the iPad and the iPhone. Orientation, you can pick the orientation for portrait or landscape. Then you can also try different kind of paper or a custom with more options for a custom size page. The scale, if you're using a laser printer, typically that can be scaled to whatever scale you want. You can see all the different scales and currently, or a custom one you can put in a custom page. The maximum dot per inch depends on your printer, what it'll print at. You can choose less than, but you can't go greater than what your current printer can print. PDF, very interesting. You can create a view of a screen using a PDF selection. You can email a PDF as a view, or you can save a view as a record within the iPad or iPhone. Okay, that pretty much takes care of the print setup. Let's go ahead and cancel out of here. Let's go back over to this screen. You'll see that we have an export data. Now for export data, it's very similar to print, but in this case, you have a set of records in selection, and then you pick how you want them to be separated as far as an Excel spreadsheet, a tab delimited, a merge file, which is an MER file for like word processors, or a CSV, which is like mail programs where they're using client data to create a mailing list for the email address and the name and so forth. DBase is a little less used. If you have a database format and you want to use it in another database, you could use that. Okay, let's go back. And now you have also you can export to an email or you can save the export file. It's your choice. You can also pick the fields in the area here. Anything that you uncheck would not be included. Or you can say, for example, you can do grouped by, in this case, grouped by the ID number. You have a lot of choices here, and if you scroll up, you can see this is all the fields that are available in this particular record, and you may not want to pick everything. Say, for example, I wanted to do an email list in CSV. I would really want to have the client information, client name, and so forth for the primary person, their email address, and then so forth. Here's the name for the booking, and there's also telephone if you needed that. Say you want to create a telephone list. You can either do the individual primary or you would do the company, so you'd have both options. You can also include them both together. Say done in here, come back. You can set the layout using the layout formatted in the actual record as far as the sequencing, or you can pick the fields again to go ahead and pick the fields for the export that you want to do. Okay, let's go ahead and leave here. The next one is the developer support site. This will take you to the main developer site for OnTarget Solutions, where you can now either start a chat or send an email to us or even contact us by telephone. Or you can do Skype, Skype is the international way to carry on a conversation for tech support. Then there's video help screens. That would be the video help screens that, like the one you're viewing here. If you go to the video help screen, it'll open up that screen where you can look at all the video helps for this application. Okay, let's go in and talk about the tabs. The first is the client tab. When you create a booking record for the individual and the company, anything that you do is an assignment in this screen by picking with a drop down. You can pick for example, the values for the products or services that are going to be done. And you can add to these products or services to make it for your business and personalize it by clicking on the underlined service at the top where it says product service and create your own services. Then you would have the pet name. The pet name is typically a type in where you create the name for the animal that or the pet that you're doing as far as this record is concerned. Then there is the type of pet. The type of pet, when you look at this list, is the list that is the type of pet, either their long-haired dog, it could be a bird, it can be any kind of animal that you want to put in there. Going back to the pets and services, let's go back over to booking. In booking again, now that we're in the screen over here, let's go ahead and say service type. In this case, what kind of service and what date. So the service date and service type. In this case, you have another choice of records in here, and you can edit that scroller by clicking over here on the service type and adding additional things that fit the business that you do. The time of the appointment, the contact person. In this case, the contact person is taken from the list of all the people in the database. And then the service status. This would be a status that is listed, and you can also edit the service status so that you have it in your drop down. And these are just some of the ones that I've added for default ones that you'd want to do in there. And then you can go ahead and put those. Once you schedule this, and it is on, you can go to the portal record and look at it in full view. And there's another comment there, the area that you can go there. Or you can jump up to the appointment screen and look for the appointment for that particular person on that screen based on who is in selection in this record. In this case, it's this record. Now, this is only for this particular person that is selected. If I move between a different record and I go over here, you can see that they will change based on the person that you're looking at for their record. Now, understand that these are the ones that are appointments that this particular person has consigned to them, and this would give you all the past history of all the appointments for this particular person. Now let's look at billing. Billing, when you create this, this is a billing screen for edit entry. What this means is you put in all the information for the record that you want to actually show on a screen where you're going to print the invoice. If you create it in here, when you go to the invoice, then you can make the selection as far as what records that you want to have printed. Now, in most cases, I would think that there would be very few things, maybe 1 to 5 items per appointment where they would be in here to do something, or maybe the individual appointment for one line where you're doing the services. Up at the top, you'll see that it shows the sales tax. If you're going to have tax, there's a tax rate table that is a lookup for your scroller. And if you're not going to appoint a tax, you just leave this field blank and it will not calculate the tax. But it would take the cost and the quantity or time that it actually took for them to do that. It multiplies this times the rate or quantity. For example, if this is an individual item and you put 1 in here, it's going to be 1 times 10. For a line subtotal of 10, if you add the sales tax, it will include the sales tax. And in this particular case, we had a start time and a stop time for a service that's provided. And at the end, it shows you the billable amount, for example. Okay, so that is what you're looking for in this record. You'll notice it is for customer ID number 2 in this case. And once they make a payment, the payment will be reduced on the balance due. Don't be really concerned if there's a penny difference, because sometimes there's rounding errors in the applications where it might be a fraction of a cent. In this case, it's a 0.0005, so it's not significant at all. So let's go into payment. When you actually want to collect for a payment, you would come from the record for that particular one that's being billed, and you would go ahead and put in the date in the scroller. You'd put the amount due, which is shown on the record right here, and then you would have the amount paid. If it's less than the amount being billed for the total, then it'll give you a balance due. And then you have a thing here where you can click and put in the kind of way it was paid. In this case, it was cash. It could be a credit card or whatever. If you're using cash, obviously there's no check number or credit card number. I suggest anytime you're doing your billing that you always put the last 4 digits of a credit card. That way, if there's any difference in the bill or it's ever contested for some reason, you know what the last 4 digits of that particular card were for, and you would know in here if it was like American Express, a Visa, or whatever, what the actual credit card number or credit was for. Next one is location. If you have an address in for the primary person, you'll get a map up here, and if you want to see the whole map, just go ahead and tap on this tab right here to remove it so you can see the whole screen. And of course you have a lot of other information and zooming and so forth in here that you can do as far as the map is concerned, or you can ask for a point-to-point specific location to go to someplace. And this is normally if you're going out to do work in a different location other than in a, say for example, in your shop. If you're a person that goes out and say you work out of your home and you're going to be going to certain people's homes to do, say, services like trim bird feathers or whatever, then you're going to need directions to know how to find those locations. In this case, let's go to find location. This one is an optional one where you can put in any location that you want to as far as the location that you would like to go to. And all you have to do is just say no thanks. And this particular first opening one, you can read the information on the initial setup of MapQuest, and then you can go ahead and go in and you see the same map you did before, entering a search address or add directions to that location. Now this particular tab is very interesting. Let's go back over here. In this particular case, what happens, you can put a URL image of a screen, say a page, or you can take something from the photo library on your application library for your either iPad or iPhone. Maybe you want a picture of the animal that you're working with or whatever, and this is a scrollable area, so you can have a number of different records in here. In this case, you could have a picture of each animal, bird, dog, cat, whatever it is, in this screen. Or you can go to a website for, say, for example, if you want to have a different kind of an animal picture in there, or you want something from a website, maybe the client's own website, and show a picture of something. The URL also, with the way you do that is if you go to a website, for example, and you right mouse click or tap on the picture, it'll allow you to copy the URL of that image and you can paste it directly into here, and then you say insert URL and it'll put it in there. In the case of a item from the photo library, you would click on the screen. In this case there's already a picture in there, so you would tap here and say photos and pick from the photo library. And you'd have, now in this case I just have some default things in here, but you could take it from your photo library and then actually input that right into this area right here. In this case I can always just say cancel and go off of it. And then you're ready to also, if you wanted to see the large view of the screen where the picture is enlarged, you would click here and it would take you into an enlarged view. So if you had an animal like a bird or something and you wanted to show, say its bill was deformed or whatever, and you did some touch up or fix that bill by grinding on the bill, and then you come back and you wanted to show another photo of it after the fact, and then travel, say, for days forward, 30, 60 days, and then look at it again to see how it may have been corrected or deformed again. This is where you would put that information. You can also set the screen and URLs within this screen and add them, or you can delete the record if you want to delete it. Okay, let's go back to the main screen here, and you can see I can access anywhere in the application with one tap. It's very easy to use and navigate around the application. Okay, if you have questions or you're confused or you need assistance, the best thing to do is go to the Do action, go to Developer Support, and ask the questions. And keep in mind that we can do a live demonstration. If you want a live demonstration for an application that you want to purchase, any application that is on our developer site, you can always go to the Developer Support and set up a view or a live demonstration of that particular application. Thank you for taking this video.